Hello, my name is Matthew Vowels. I'm a first year PhD student at the Centre for Computer Vision, Speech and Signal Processing, as well as an Associate Lecturer in Electroacoustic Engineering for Tom Meisers at the Institute of Sound Recording, and both of these posts are at the University of Surrey. Thank you for expressing interest in our work, which is on disentangled, fair and causal approaches to the latent variable modelling of internal states, and the long-term goal is to apply these methods to mental health. So mental health is a major concern across the world, and in the UK alone, the National Health Service spent £11.6 billion, approximately 14.5 billion US dollars, on mental health in 2016. It's estimated that as many as 50% of all people will suffer from at least one mental disorder in their lifetime, and unfortunately, reports suggest that current treatments may not be particularly effective. For example, whilst the spontaneous recovery rate for depression is 50%, the recovery rate for people who undergo therapy is actually also only 50%, which suggests that treatment efficacy is mixed at best. In addition to the limitations associated with the treatments, there is also a growing concern relating to research malpractice, statistical misunderstandings, and replicability issues for psychology and neuroscience, as well as the human sciences in general, and this has contributed to the current replicability, generalizability, and reproducibility crises. Unfortunately, we rely on this research to evaluate and develop effective treatments, and building on potentially flawed research has the potential to be incredibly damaging and compounds and perpetuates poorly supported theories. Further concerns exist relating to the traditional research designs and analyses themselves, and their capacity and flexibility in allowing the data to speak and to thereby inform us about the complex real-time behavioral processes for how mental health problems may manifest in behavior and interaction. Mental health therefore represents a vital area of research with vast room for improvement both in terms of research practice as well as innovation in the treatment themselves. We believe that machine learning can provide the tools that we need. In particular, we would like to explore opportunities for automating assessment, individualizing treatment assignment, augmenting treatment with non-invasive multimodal data processing and real-time feedback, and leveraging state-of-the-art causal inference techniques on observational data in order to continually assess the efficacy of both existing, new treatments and methods. Noting the current problems in human sciences research, we take heed of the warnings that aim to undertake research which is reproducible and which does not depend or hinge or pivot too readily on potentially shaky theoretical foundations which may have limited empirical support. In other words, we acknowledge the current crises in the field of psychology exists and take a cautious and exploratory perspective towards modeling the complex phenomena associated with the human psyche. Our approach. One burgeoning area of research involves the use of AI and ML for applications in mental health and automated or online therapy. Such methods include the estimation of mental health problems from various individual or combined modalities such as speech, physio, vision, and text. However, many of these new methods are tailored to address one individual and specific task and rely on supervised datasets which are expensive and time-consuming to collect. We make the assumption that the mental health and by association the internal state of an individual can be modeled as a set of latent variables to be inferred from unlabeled and or weakly labeled observational data in the form of video, audio, physio, and text. The structure of these latent variables is not assumed a priori, although the literature debates the associations between mental health and various patterns in internal states such as emotion, valence, and arousal. Such associations may also be highly complex and dynamic and therefore benefit from being modeled with state-of-the-art machine learning techniques. Our research vision is therefore to develop unsupervised machine learning models capable of inferring the internal state of an individual over time from multimodal observational data. The model should provide a densely informative embedding over multiple timescales, be useful across a range of downstream tasks relevant to mental health and others, and such tasks include the prediction of transient states of emotion, valence, and arousal, as well as longer-term traits such as personality type and mental health disorders. This project hopes to contribute new knowledge to the field of machine learning, as well as psychometrics, data collection, psychology, mental health, and also to provide useful tools for therapists. Work to date. Our work to date focuses on gradually building up a suite of latent variable modeling tools that enable fair, disentangled, and causal modeling of underlying processes. Thus far, the development of these models has been relatively agnostic to the long-term intention to apply these to mental health, on the basis that such methods, if they are useful in mental health, will also be useful across a broad range of tasks. Once these tools have been developed to a sufficient level, they can then be specifically applied in the context of mental health. And we also explored and created some data collection methods in order to aid in our efforts and our goals. The first work I want to talk about is GatedVAE. This sought to incorporate weak supervision in the form of paired data, where the pairing corresponded to some shared latent attribute. Backpropagation was gated according to the attribute on which the pair was formed. In the image on the slide, the green examples represent one input target pair and the red examples a second input target pair. Depending on which pair is being used to train the network at a particular time, gradients are backpropagated only through one particular partition at a time, thereby achieving a disentangled representation. The method was demonstrated to successfully disentangle subsets of latent factors according to this week's supervision, as well as learning and embedding, which is more informative for downstream tasks than existing unsupervised disentanglement methods. Such work is useful in providing a means to disentangle the facial attributes relevant to emotion prediction from static images. For example, it can be seen from the image that head pose has been disentangled from facial expression. The next work is called EmoTVRater. In order to facilitate the collection of data for our project, we developed software used and presented in a paper accepted to the Journal of Counseling Psychology. This software enables users to rate their perceived emotional state in terms of positive-negative valence on a one-dimensional slider in real time. Such a rating scale is simpler than the well-known circumplex model, which measures both valence and arousal, but EmoTVRater, being simpler, allows for immediate and more instinctive ratings, which is important for recording rapid and immediate changes. The use of our scale is ongoing and currently being used to collect emotion reactions to videos. Here is a screenshot of the GUI. Users can move the mouse or control stick horizontally in order to rate their instantaneous valence in response to a video or interaction. We explored perceptual mapping, which is also known as napping, and wanted to explore whether or not it could be used to recover 3 dimensions of perceptual attributes. So napping is a subjective evaluation technique commonly used in the food sciences, used to acquire perceptual data by allowing participants to position icons, which represent stimuli, on a 2D plane according to the perceived dissimilarity between the stimuli. It has the advantage of minimizing the chances of biasing the participants a priori to attending to any particular dimensions. We compared napping against the traditional pairwise dissimilarity rating task, where participants compare stimuli one at a time for their dissimilarity, and yes, this can be a very long, very time-consuming process. The pairwise task is typically assumed not to limit the number of perceptual dimensions that can be recovered. In contrast, the napping task is only 2-dimensional. And our analyses, which constituted multidimensional scaling and multiple factor analysis, indicate that the pairwise task actually yield ambiguous and mixed results, even for the simplest and least ambiguous perceptual tasks. In contrast, the napping task is substantially quicker and easier for people to use and allows for the unambiguous recovery of 3 dimensions despite its 2-dimensional response format. Napping therefore presents a viable and useful means to collect data from individuals. NestedVAE. Recent work accepted to CVPR is designed to infer latent representations that are invariant to confounding factors. Such work is important in an age where systemic bias associated with the use of machine learning is impacting individuals in a severe way. In developing methods for mental health applications, we need to be very mindful that our algorithms may be affected by confounding or culturally and politically sensitive factors. Indeed, regardless of the application, we encourage engineers to consider the ethical and societal impact of their work, both positive and negative. NestedVAE works by doubling up on the information bottleneck interpretation of VAEs. We randomly pair up inputs where the only factor consistently common to the pair is the factor that we wish to learn. In the case of MNIST, this might be the digit class. The first bottleneck tries to learn all the factors, as in a standard variational autoencoder, and the inner bottleneck learns only factors which are useful for reconstructing the paired latents from the other input. Our network is able to forget rotation in the case of MNIST, as well as other non-class related factors like stroke width and writing style, and this additional pairing also provides a stronger learning signal. When compared with existing methods, the model was shown to be less biased, more generalizable, and to extract a stronger learning signal for downstream tasks. Causal modeling. In order to assess the efficacy of treatment, it is important to be able to undertake parameter estimation. Parameter estimation has traditionally been the goal of causal inference in statistics, where we wish to isolate the causal influence between variables and thereby differentiate correlation, or indeed mutual information, from causation. Our work is designed to undertake causal inference from observational data for pre- and post-treatment scenarios. The method is currently under review and unfortunately we can't present it in detail here, but it's been shown to be effective in estimating the true causal association between intervention and treatment on outcome. To conclude, the prior work to date has been relatively agnostic to our long-term motivating application, which is mental health. But by exploring data collection methods, un- or weakly supervised latent variable models, factor disentanglement, causal modeling, and debiased representation learning, we are gradually building a suite of tools useful for subsequent application to mental health. I want to thank you for listening, and here are the references.